Call to order January 21st meeting of the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors. I want to welcome everyone that's here and brave the cold to be here, and welcome those online who have the sense to stay home. This is our second meeting of the month. It's the one where we take most of our votes, although it includes the consent agenda of items that are routine or were discussed at an earlier meeting. Our agenda is online along with all of the related documents for you to read from the website. Will you please join me at the place to the flag? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have attendance, Mrs. Martin?
We have 6 school directors present tonight. Absent are Mr. Hurst, Mr. Talley, and Mr. Eby. We have a quorum in place.
Are there any changes to the agenda? Any additions, deletions, or corrections? If not, I will take a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Vote is unanimous. Board commendations. Congratulations to the elementary band and orchestra for successful winter concert held on December 12th. Under the direction of Mrs. Sharon Turan, Director of Elementary Orchestra, and Mr. Keith Stoltzfus, Director of Elementary Band, 197 4th and 5th grade students performed for over 700 family members and friends. 2 students were recognized for their honors from the Pennsylvania Music Education Association Youth Honors Band Festival. Abraham Hershey and Janie Montes were nominated and accepted. 4 Conestoga Valley football players were named Big 37 All-Stars, which recognizes the top players from the 37 teams in Lancaster Lebanon League. Justin Corson, Senior, Sawyer Eversole, Junior, Seth Morgan, Senior, and Isaiah Sensney, Senior. Gerald C. Husker Middle School held its spelling bee on December 10th, which was a qualifying round for the Scripps National Spelling Bee. Congratulations to 8th grader Kevin Wynn, who was the winner and qualified for the written test, which was held January 16th. Conestoga Valley High School junior Riley Ripczynski was named the Paradise Rotary Student of the Month for January. Students are recommended by high school staff based on achievement as well as good character and citizenship. And those are our commendations for the month. Dr. Hartman.
Good evening. A few things to announce this evening. I'd like to start by introducing some new staff members who are being approved tonight. We'll start with Elizabeth Graham. Elizabeth is going to be our next assistant principal at the middle school. She's currently an instructional coach for secondary ELA and social studies in the school district of Lancaster. She has her bachelor's degree in English education and her master's in leadership for teaching and learning, both from Millersville University. So we're excited to have her started as soon as SBLL lets her go and she can start here. So welcome, Elizabeth. Next, we have Timothy Rasmus. Hi, Tim. Mr. Rasmus will be serving as a long-term substitute in tech ed at the middle school as well. He originally received his bachelor's degree from Shippensburg University in communications and journalism and went back for his teaching certification at Millersville University. He's currently certified in elementary education as well as technology education. He's previously taught at the Lincoln Charter School in York, as well as serving in long-term substitute roles with Penn Manor School District and Cocalico School District. So welcome, Timothy. And then finally, I'd like to welcome Lori Schaefer, who's going to be our new administrative assistant at Fritz Elementary. Lori has her bachelor's degree in marketing with a minor in human resources from York College and has served as a substitute teacher and paraeducator previously, as well as working in the business and marketing fields. So Welcome aboard.
Is that everyone?
That's everybody.
We welcome all of you.
Before I conclude my comments, just one more comment. It is January is School Board Appreciation Month, so we'd like, as a administrative team, just take a moment to thank each of you for your volunteerism and your service and your dedication to the district. And as a small token, our tech ed department at the high school made the coasters that are at your seats. So congratulations for all the hours or thank you for all the hours that you put in. We know the pay's not great. But,
I understand we're doubling our pay.
we are this year. We're working on that. Yeah.
2 bottles of water.
Two bottles.
Thank you. The kids appreciate our tech ed students always make such, beautiful pieces. Anything else?
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Any board comments on district activities? Mrs. Martin, do we have any correspondence?
Not this month.
Dr. Hartman, do you want to follow with the award?
Sure. So first this evening, for our first presentation, we'd like to recognize a esteemed member of our staff as the first recipient of our School Board of Directors Educator, I want to get this right, the Conestoga Valley Board of School Directors Educator Award of Excellence. So if Mrs. Jill Stoltzfus doesn't mind coming up to the front of the room. Mrs. Stoltzfus was nominated by her colleagues and selected by board members for her dedication and leadership and service to her students and to the district, and for exemplifying the highest standards of professional practice. In addition to the certificate she is being presented with tonight, she will also receive $500 to spend on something that will benefit her classroom and her students. So congratulations, Jill, on this well-deserved recognition. Once again, congratulations to Mrs. Stoltzfus, and I also just want to mention that this is an award that we will be recognizing 2 times a year, so just kind of a plug in there for our staff and administrators that to think about who you might want to nominate for the next round, which will be coming up this spring.
And I would note that even in this first round, we had a very long list of teachers recognized. All of them more than worthy of honor and recognition. It was really pleasing to read what their administrators and fellow teachers thought of their work. We don't get to see much of that from up here. Okay. Mrs. Strasbourg, our Director of Academic Support, along with our 3 assistant superintendents for elementary, secondary, and student services. Oh, we only have one of you. That's okay. You'll do.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. This is on multi-tier support systems.
Absolutely. So this is our mid-year update on our entire MTSS framework. So you're going to hear first about the academic side of the triangle, and then Mrs. Schaefer and her team will come up and you'll hear about the behavior side of the triangle. So again, this being one of our primary goals under the new comprehensive plan. So MTSS is in and of itself a comprehensive plan goal area. So you're getting a little bit of the comp plan update with some of the other district-wide initiatives that we've been working on this year. So I've asked Mrs. Strasbourg, our Director of Academic Supports. This is really the main focus of Michelle's work in the school district this year. And as a result, we have seen just an expedited process of data gathering information and moving forward with the academic side of our multi-tiered system of support. So Mrs. Strasbourg is going to give us some updates this evening.
Michelle, it's the first time we've seen her in this position since she's had it, and we're thrilled to have that change in our administration.
Thank you. Dr. Kozer asked me just to take a brief moment to talk a little bit about the role and everything that I'm involved in. So on the slide, you'll see I work with First 10 and Pre-K Counts, and you can see the Dolly Parton Library, the Play and Learns. We've been nationally featured. We're really working to align all of our academic and behavioral programs, Birth to 10, along with our Pre-K Counts program. ESL, which I'll talk about in a little bit, really looking at using data to drive that instruction and working very closely with Dr. Metzinger at the middle school with our ESL population and just overall looking at our K-12 ESL programming. Federal programs will be a part of my role, and I'm doing a lot of listening and learning with Dr. Kozer in that area, as you can imagine. And then MTSS, to date, we have done a K-12 needs assessment. We are in the process of really looking at a full resource inventory across the entire district, what we have, what we're using, what we're not using, what's successful. And we've had it before, but we're kind of fine-tuning our elementary district data team. We formed an MTSS district leadership team. We're looking at our Tier 1 programming and interventions that we can apply through differentiation at the Tier 1 level. In the process right now of listen and learns for Tier 2 and Tier 3 across the whole district, and also working very closely with Adam McGraw and his tech department on an MTSS technology resource analysis so that we're being fiscally responsible and also making sure that all of our systems are integrated. Also partnering a lot with SEEDS, some other community partnerships, and really looking at how our professional development all comes into play with these different parts and pieces. So just a little overview. So I had a little video, and in the interest of time, because I know we have a busy night, instead decided to just do a couple little screenshots. I'm going to just take a moment and just tell you a little story. So this captures the idea of MTSS very well. So imagine that you are standing by a river and you see a child fall into the river, and you're wondering why that child's in the river. And then there's another child in the river and another child in the river. And meanwhile, all the villagers are trying to rescue these children, and more children are falling in the river, and you don't know why. And so you get this idea like, well, something must be happening upstream for all these children to be falling in the river. So it makes sense you're going to go upstream and see what's happening, rather than using all your resources constantly trying to rescue the children. When you go upstream, you find out that it's really windy. There's, a lot of things happening. There's, some broken bridges, and people need more tools, and we need to, put the resources in to kind of shore up what's happening upstream so that the kids aren't falling into the river. So that's a very abbreviated version of a little story that kind of captures the idea that MTSS is a comprehensive, systematic framework that's proactive. So when all of your systems work together efficiently and effectively, you're making sure that you are creating the optimal environment academically, behaviorally, which you're going to hear from my colleagues very soon, to make sure that we're operating from a strengths-based perspective so that you don't have as many kids falling in the river in the end, and then you're just using all your resources, running out of time and energy to pull them out. So that kind of captures the philosophy of MTSS. So my piece is the academics, and I love this triangle because it kind of shows you the two sides of the triangle. There's 3 tiers. 80% of students are successful when you are operating in a highly successful MTSS systematic environment. It means that 80% of your students are successful at Tier 1, and you anticipate that 15% of students will need Tier 1 plus, targeted interventions, additional supports, and then your most intensive academic interventions will be that 5%. Systems that are healthy are designed to maximize all of the aspects of this triangle. Right now, we're not really quite at a triangle. We're a little bit more like a square. But we're working on trying to address and put a lot of energy. You've heard a lot about curriculum. I've been in this district for a long time and have learned that, you know, in the past, maybe we did tier 3 and we were like, okay, you know, the magic reading room is going to fix everyone. And that really isn't what we want to do. What we really want to do is shore up the strength of tier 1 and make that as successful as possible so that then again, you don't need as many resources spent on tier 2 and tier 3. So this is an umbrella that kind of conceptually and pictorially represents the idea that MTSS is a system, and all the things that we talk about really, RTII, family engagement, ESL, attendance, curriculum, all of those pieces are really parts of a system that when they work together well, create that optimal environment. And so that's why I'm spending so much time really analyzing and listening and learning, you know, what are we doing so that then we can start to analyze and make some decisions as to how we can work more effectively. Because I think educators as a whole are working super, super hard, but maybe we could work a little smarter and our systems could work together a little bit better. So this is the comprehensive plan, which I know is you're very familiar with. You'll see MTSS, the 2 goals listed there for learner personalization and growth. One major piece of it is looking at our MTSS dashboard and kind of establishing that skeletal framework for how MTSS in the district will operate. And this is going to be where we house a lot of those resources available for staff. So far, we have, as I said, done an inventory and we're reviewing all the frameworks, trying to understand exactly how all 6 buildings are working together. Surveying teachers, gathering insights. We've recruited stakeholders. We've had 2 MTSS DLT, that's district leadership team meetings thus far. Teachers, specialists, it's almost like a representative democracy. We have principals from elementary, middle, high school. We have specialists from all levels. We have ESL coach. We have school psychologists. So it's designed that there's almost like a representative from each of the special areas and also teachers on that committee. Second semester is going to focus on summarizing the findings. We just concluded a SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Don't love the word threat, but that if you've been business, have seen the SWOT, that's what it's referred to. I think we talked a little bit more, calling it the swab, the bump, potential bumps that are in the road. But that is what we're looking at and continuing to convene and analyze where we are. And we're moving into tier 2 and tier 3 with the idea that the building level implementation and planning will be coming next into the spring and the summer. So I was told to be less than 10 minutes, so I think
On the dot.
I think I did it. I know I said a lot.
10 minutes or less.
Lots of
Any
information.
questions?
So,
I have 2. You mentioned here tier 1.5.
yes, ma'am.
So I get that's between tier 1 and tier 2. But what does that focus on?
So tier 1.5 is called a class-wide intervention. So if you give an assessment or you notice that on a benchmark assessment, students are more than 50% of your class is not doing well on something, rather than moving forward and just saying, hey, you know, you'll figure it out later. You stop and pause and you reteach or set aside time at the beginning of class or at the end of class, doing a structured intervention that's then progress monitored to make sure that those students continue to move forward, because you recognize that if 50% of the class isn't understanding what's happening, then moving forward isn't the best idea.
1.5 is a classroom-wide intervention.
It's a classroom-wide intervention.
The other thing is, in your framework, I noticed when you get to tier 2, you mention at-risk students. We talked before here about some of our testing results that really are reflecting students that transferred into CD and weren't quite where we were, and they needed time to catch up. So my question is, that tier 2, is that where a lot of our transfer students start off at tier 2?
All students
Or is
are,
at-risk something different?
so all students are tier 1. And we try to not say that a student is a tier 2 or a tier 3 student because they may have needs in one area, but that doesn't make them a tier 2 or a tier 3 student. So it depends on, what they need in math or what they may need in ELA or attendance or behavior, as my colleagues are going to talk about. So the whole idea of MTSS is to do a medical model, which is like a universal screener, like your checkup once a year or 3 times a year. And then you look at that data to determine who needs more testing and then determine who needs more help. And so you don't live in any particular tier permanently. It's designed to be flexible.
But tier 2 has multiple problems, you say at risk.
One more time.
The students that move into tier 2,
Mhm.
are these the ones that have more multiple issues?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily?
No, you could be a student who needs a reading intervention, but be gifted mathematically.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
It's a
you.
great question, though. It's very, the whole idea of MTSS is that it's a fluid system, which is a challenge sometimes in education, because we want the schedules, the students, the testing to be fluid, and we want the data to be live and as up-to-date as possible so that we can adjust based on the student's needs or growth.
Okay, thank you. Where to move on?
I didn't even have to talk. Do you love that? You love that. I know you do. All right, we're gonna hand it over to the other side of that triangle, so you can hear a little bit about where we are with MTSS behavior.
Mr. Schaefer
All right.
and Fran.
While I'm setting up their PowerPoint, just to piggyback on something Dr. Kozer mentioned at the beginning, when we came to the board last year with the concept of creating the position that Mrs. Strasbourg took, the direct, we knew there was the need, but we weren't really sure what it was going to look like. And I just want to kind of reiterate some of the things Dr. Kozer said, that Michelle's really taken that position and ran with it. And it is really, she's kind of the hub that's connecting the dots of a lot of these pieces. And it's really come a long way in a half of the school year. Really, the coordination, even kind of bridging that gap between special education, regular ed, and what are appropriate interventions. A lot of those conversations are happening now too. So just kudos to Mrs. Strasbourg for what she's done in a short amount of time with the position, from my perspective.
So thank you for this opportunity to talk a little bit on the behavior side of the house. So this is our mid-year PBIS status report. And this is the 3rd time that we have reported out to you. And again, PBIS is positive behavior intervention and supports. It has similarities to MTSS, but it is run differently than the academic side. So what we wanted to do tonight was to introduce some key personnel to you, talk about what implementation stage we're at because we are in year 3 of this. We wanted to show you some data, some general understanding of what the data looks like to give you an idea about how much work goes into this and how much we're getting out of it and how we're able to make decisions. And also give you an idea what successes we've had and then what next steps we're going to take. So our thing that we always want to start with is our acronyms, which is the next slide. because we use a lot of those things in education. So you may hear us talk about TIPS, which is team initiative problem solving, which is it's a process that my team is going to talk about. PBIS, I've already said what that is. SPEC is supporting positive environments for children, and that is our contracted consultant support. And they have been assisting us for 3 years to get this up and running and off the ground. So they do a lot of guidance with us and for us. Our MBA plugin is our PowerSchool data plugin to disaggregate our data points that we get from behavior across the district. And then our PBIS rewards is our data acknowledgement, how we collect our data, and our acknowledgement system platform that is in its first year of implementation here in the district. So our key personnel, I'm the district PBIS coordinator, and then we have it set up through district coaches. So I wanted to introduce Ms. Ashley Johnson, who is our high school district coach, Mr. Eric Hollinger, who's our middle school district coach, and then Mr. Travis Jones, who's our elementary district coach. They also have other roles in our district. They're all assistant principals in each of their respective areas. Travis is at Brownstown Middle School and high school. So in addition to their assistant principal pieces, they've also picked up this district coach responsibility too, which is it's a big job. This is their first year that they've taken this on, and they're doing really exceptional. And then our spec consultants that I mentioned before is our contracted consultant team, and we use Mr. Tyler Hoffman and Ms. Joelle Jones. And as I mentioned, we're in our third year of implementation. Our third year of startup and setup. It's our second year of implementation. And what that really means is that first year that we had it here, we were doing a lot of setup and initiation. How were the teams going to look? How were we going to collect data? How was it going to look across the district? So it was a lot of planning and preparation before we could even jump into the pool. And then last year was our first year of implementation where we were learning what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. And the first thing that we learned was our data system wasn't going to work. And so we were using something that we needed to put a hold on, and we ended up moving to PBIS rewards, which is in its first year of implementation for us, and it has been successful. And so that is one of the reasons why we're able to sit here tonight and show you data and show you what the process looks like across our district now. So it's really our second year of implementation. We're able to do our tier 1 teams across all the buildings. They're meeting consistently. They're also using behavioral data points to target grade level interventions. And the PBIS rewards is being successful because now we have a really robust acknowledgement system to really hone in on all the areas that we've identified for safe, responsible, and respectful student behavior.
All right. So before I get started with my piece, on behalf of the coaches, we just want to thank the board, Dr. Kozer, Dr. Mann, last year at the end of the year recognizing the three of us and trusting us to take a K-12 initiative to the next level. It's also been great to work with the two of these gentlemen and lady in terms of working with middle school and high school to really align it K-12. So it doesn't seem like it's an elementary or a high school thing. It's a CV K-12 initiative that we're doing our best to implement. This first few months of school, halfway through, has been really great in terms of our tier 1 implementation when it comes to data collection, especially in acknowledgement, but also in terms of our referrals. So as we get into the tips form that you'll take a look at in a little bit, that is our vehicle for our tier 1 teams. Like Mrs. Schaefer said, we have tier 1 teams at every building. It's my responsibility as the elementary coach to meet with all the APs at the elementary level to make sure that our form is ready to go so they can have those conversations at the tier 1 meetings to really drive decision making, both from a discipline end, but also the acknowledgement end. So in terms of the data collection for rewards, it's a way for us to really take a look at not just the whole building, but also is there certain areas of the school that we are or aren't recognizing students. As mentioned by Dr. Chasberg, that PBIS is a proactive measure. So we're doing our best to always be proactive in our approach and not reactive. And last year at this time, without the data to do that, it was nearly impossible. So we really, on a monthly basis are meeting as teams to discuss that, but also again, as APs, we're having the time and collaboration to design things and ensure that it's shored up K to 12. So this is our monthly status report where we as assistant principals at all buildings are required to enter our data on a monthly basis. This is just one representation of a slide that we are asked to complete. As a DLT team, this is something we look at very intensely. So our district leadership team that meets once a month, we're looking at data, again, to drive what is necessary. One thing that I think is really going to be helpful as well, looking again to the proactive measure, is next year at this time, we can be proactive if we see a spike at a certain school or as a whole at K to 12, what measures can we put in place to ensure that that doesn't continue. So this is just one representative of a slide and data that we have. And again, this is something that assistant principals are asked to input monthly to ensure we're having conversations around data and specifically student behavior.
The ODR is daily office referrals?
Yes.
Is that
Office
right?
referral, yeah,
Office
exactly.
daily referrals, is that
Yeah.
right?
So this is the tips form that we had mentioned. This is something that we use for every tier 1 team. So working with SPEC, our consultants there, to pool, it's small there, but this is both PBIS rewards and also our Power School and our MBA plugin for the discipline part of it. So we are able to pull the data, put the numbers in, help calculate that, and then work with our SPEC consultants to really dial in on certain grade levels and what the needs are. But this is something, especially when assistant principals go to our tier 1 meetings and we're presenting and discussing, most importantly discussing with our tier 1 teams on next steps, we have efficient and effective data to make those decisions.
So I have the privilege of talking about what's been doing so well K to 12 throughout our entire school year up until this point. So PBIS Rewards is in an app form. Got it pushed out to the entire district, to all student iPads at the beginning of the school year. There's a student app version and then there's a staff app version. There is also a parent version that, depending upon what grade level throughout the district, they may or may not be using it. That is something that is being looked into. We wanted to roll out the student and the staff app first and get it really solid before we start opening up outside of the community to make sure that it was going to be something we would be continuing to use. Since this is our first year using the application, we wanted to make sure it was really good. Our digital system has been going great. It has increased staff participation throughout the building. Last year, we were using paper tickets to literally hand paper tickets to each kid when they were doing something well, and showing safe, respectful, responsible behaviors within certain areas of the school building or throughout the district. And then we actually had office staff like hand counting those tickets. I mean, it was super labor intensive. This has really streamlined that for us. We're able to pull data to drive school-wide classroom and even grade level changes using our tier 1 team meetings and that tips form you just saw to help us do that and really create some interventions that can happen within the building on a relatively quick basis and a quick turnaround. We actually have a digital school store at every level. The students are able to choose their prizes automatically, digitally, and then be able to get those on a regular basis. It is super high student choice, and it's based on value of the items, and the students get to choose the items based on how many points they receive within the app. The redemption process is super easy on the staff side. It's automatic, and all we do is just hit approve, 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 and the kids get their glorious rewards. And easy notification to students when items are either new or unavailable. So if they had something, their eye on something, or they requested something from the staff, say, hey, we'd like to add this to the school store, and we finally get it in, they actually get alerted to that through the app itself. And then we have a teacher, parent, and school-wide communication system through that app. I know the middle school, you guys use Parent Link. Elementary, you guys are linked up with Parent Link as well. All right, that's something that the high school may be possibly moving into. We just are, we're slow on the Parent Link part, but we're getting there. So, the main thing is that we needed to enhance staff participation for points and rewards and student participation with points and rewards. And it has been, both teaching and non-teaching staff have been able to access this on a quick basis. The kids have really taken hold of this way faster than last year. Another thing that's working really well is our professional development. So the training that has been received has been beneficial, but we always believe that there's more training needed. So like as things enhance, as we see interventions needed for certain types of behaviors based on our data, more professional development is needed to fix those behaviors that we're seeing within certain settings, say the cafeteria or the hallway. So we need to add professional development to our staff so that those issues can be lessened and you start seeing our data drop in our ODRs. Also something that's working really well, if you can go back for me. Thank you so much, is district level team meetings. We love our district level team meetings. That's once a month. We're talking about developing opportunities to actually enhance those DLT meetings and talk about getting transportation involved, SOSL involved, and outside community members involved in those DLT meetings so that we just can keep this ball rolling in the positive and where we can actually see some of our bus referrals be reduced so we can get transportation and more professional development there for our bus drivers. So we're really excited about enhancing this as we move forward.
So what's next? So when we look at this, we want to continue our practices with consistency across Tier 1, which would be for all students at all buildings, K through 12. We're going to continue integration with professional development throughout the school year, beginning of school year, and continue to assist and support teachers and staff as they work through PBIS rewards, all of those pieces that make this possible. We want to make sure we get competency in using the data, understanding the data, and then be able to use that to make building level decisions at each level, elementary, middle, and high school. And then advanced tier support. So looking at Tier 2 and Tier 3, we already have Tier 2 teams. Many of them are meeting, and we're getting ready to look at what does Tier 2 look like within that. A lot of it is going to be check-in and check-out, and an official check-in, check-out where we can track some of that. And again, that's more of a fluid system where a student who may be Tier 2 is not staying in Tier 2 all year. You know, they're Tier 2, we get the supports, and then they get back to a Tier 1 level because that Tier 2 piece worked, or check-in and check-out worked. And so hopefully all building teams across K through 12 will be done with Tier 2 training by about mid-February and be able to develop a plan for what that looks like moving forward.
Questions?
What are some of the rewards that the kids have access to with this program? Like what's the stuff they're getting? What do they choose from?
So that's a great question. It looks different at every level.
I figured, yeah.
So elementary, do you want to
Yeah,
just
so
throw out a couple?
I was gonna not interrupt Ashley, but
Go ahead.
at the elementary level, it's pretty awesome. The rewards the students love the best is time spent with a staff member in some way. So whether it's student basketball with Mr. Jones, we use positive phone call, the student can reward themselves by getting a positive phone call home. Again, another proactive measure for us to connect, time, lunch with the teacher. So it's not the teacher necessarily always having to plan for that, but students can reward themselves by buying into that. We also have things like, we have a pizza raffle. Students can, again, through the app, at the elementary level, you can fact check me on this, but definitely K to 5, 80% of students are using the app to redeem. So some of the kindergartners aren't able to use the app necessarily, but which is an awesome thing, the efficiency of it. So I can print a report myself and our school counselor on the day of their redemption and simply go deliver the prizes. So the time that was thought about is spent on the student shopping. It's literally 2 to 3 minutes of me handing it to them after they are able to shop. Some other items, we did movie, so a movie and popcorn, which was a 200-point prize that a student would have to save. And that's a lot of points, especially the elementary level will have to save. We had students that did that. We do have bouncy balls, and smelly pencils, some of the little tangible things that, you know, younger students might like. But also, after getting over the hump, we're able to show that if you save your points, you can get maybe a bigger reward, just like we do in everyday life, so.
Middle school?
Yeah. Middle school, we do donuts with the principal, Chick-fil-A with assistant principal. Middle schoolers will redeem points for Takis. They love their Takis. So that's always a big one. And then some of the teachers.
They're like spicy chips.
Oh, yeah. if you-
Love to put that on
Yes.
slide all the time.
Yeah. Takis are, yeah. I won't understand them, but they will work for them. And then some of the teachers have their own stores. So teachers can have their store at the middle school, and some of them do things like sitting at a teacher's desk or sitting in their chair for a day, and you can earn points for that, or picking a song in class or something like that. So I echo what Travis says is, you know, the tangible pieces are there, and they want those things, but they also want some of those teacher directed, teacher guided rewards as well.
So at the high school, our high schoolers love food. I mean, down pat teenagers and food products go hand in hand. So we are actually, what we have is we have chips, we have gum, we have candy, we have CV gear, we have blankets, we have water bottles, we have DJ for a day. We play a song in the morning as students are coming in from buses. They get to choose the song and do a shout out to a teaching staff or staff within the building. They can save their points and create a spirit day with student council. And then that would be their own spirit day that they created. They have special lunch, which means that they can sit in a quiet space for lunch versus sitting in the middle of the cafeteria where there's 250 plus other kiddos in there. We have 2 Nintendo Switches at the high school, so they can spend their points on play Nintendo Switch for an entire lunch period while they eat their lunch. We are offering lunch in the library, so for our quiet kids who don't want to sit in the special seats that we provide, they can do library, and that the librarian has opened spaces up graciously in the library, and they can read while they're having lunch in a quiet space. We're really enhancing it coming into the second semester. I just ordered a slushie machine. It's gonna go really well. It's better than the cotton candy machine that Dr. Fox wanted me to have, and I told him no because I would not be covered in cotton candy every day. So slushies are coming to the high school. It is going to be 1 day a week, and every week of the month is going to be a favorite flavor. So the flavor will change throughout the month. And then that is going to be not a pre-purchase, but it's going to be an automatic deduction. So if they wanted a slushie that day and they like the flavor, they can automatically pay for it with their points. Cash is not accepted, so they better be getting those points in the classroom and in the hallways. So that is going to be a new thing at the high school, and they're very excited. I surveyed students at multiple lunches, and they cannot wait. So that's exciting news.
Have the high school students given you ideas?
Oh,
for
yes.
the-
So we've surveyed twice so far, and then me just going around the cafeteria and just talking like, hey, what do you want to see in the school store? Hey, what can I take your points for? Like, what would you spend your money on point value wise? And is this, I talk to them all the time about what they would like to see in the future, how they want to spend their money, digital money within the school system. So that's pretty cool.
So for high school students, do they have it on an app as well?
Yep. Same app, K-12.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a parent, I love it. I've got 2 in Brownstown, and they are constantly looking at their app or checking my app to see who has the most points.
I love friendly competition.
And my 3rd grader got a speaker.
Oh,
with
yeah.
PBIS points. And
Oh, yeah,
has
we have
been blasting
earbuds.
it in his bedroom.
Yeah, that's
So-
awesome. We have wireless
love it.
chargers, AirPods. Yeah, there's so much. Earrings that were made in the wood tech shop. Like,
The app, though, sometimes doesn't work,
yeah,
at least for the parent.
okay.
Like there are times, like right now, I tried to open it up and I can't.
That
And-
might be because we're rotating. because we're going
Okay.
into a new marking period, so it might be a little glitchy right now, because I just had to resync everybody to the high school.
So sometimes
Yeah.
my son's third grade teacher will use that app to send out like a message
Okay.
to parents.
Mm-hmm.
But if the app isn't working, I don't get the message. So I wouldn't suggest teachers use it as a form of
Gotcha.
communicating,
Okay.
maybe. Just
Alright.
because of those
It
glitches.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. We are working with them too and contacting, like, we can reach out to PBI's rewards. Our tech department also assists with that, but that is one of the things that we will work on as well.
But
But
I
thank
do
you for
like
letting
the
us know.
app because it was during the day, I got this little note that popped up, an alert that said Bo got a reward and what it was for. And so when he got home from school that day, I was like, hey, Bo, did you know you got this reward? And I could, praise him. for it.
Reinforce it at home. That's exactly what we would love for that to do. We just obviously need to get the bugs out of it. Thank you.
So this is the equivalent of the CV box,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't understand exactly where the tier 2 comes in at. What does that mean?
So that's what we're working through now. So again, tier 1 is for everyone. Tier 2 would be if a student is showing a repeated behavior and is in need of a specific intervention. So that's what we move to through data, right? Data collection by the teacher, tier 2 team, supports there, the MTSS team, those types of things. That's where we come into play, and student may become a tier 2. We're working with SPEC through the training right now, professional development, with a specific focus on the check-in, check-out, which is having a mentorish type of person that meets with them in the morning and the afternoon just to see how their day was, try and gauge that. The tier 2 is like that next level of support on the behavioral side. And again, that could be attendance too. That could be just a need of some supports that aren't at home at that time. So it's a pretty wide range, but we are working through it K to 12 to be professionally developed. And the tier 2 team is very small. Tier 1 could be anywhere from, depending on the school, 7 to 15 people, where the tier 2 is about 3 to 4 at the elementary when it comes to school counselor, psychologist possibly.
We're talking more pupil services
Right.
people for tier 2, or tier 1 includes teachers and other types of staff as well.
Right.
Your data suggests collecting data on the percentage of staff using the system. What is that percentage?
So that's where we would look at, we're able to pool, are you asking for a specific number?
Yeah.
So that's where we would see it in our monthly status report. So we can say all schools are over 90%. One of the things that we're identifying at the elementary level is some of our our district classes, we should say, in our schools where a student has a really specific behavior plan, specifically artistic support, emotional support classrooms, where they have a pretty wide range of a plan where PBIS rewards might not fit. So sometimes that data looks a little bit different, but still have conversations with those teachers of how it could fit. But we are roughly 85, 90%, if not higher, which is, again, a huge, drastic number from last year.
So within this presentation, if you want to open it up, it is linked. The district monthly report is linked. You guys are able to dig into that and see more data. We just don't have enough time here sitting with you to literally dig. So, we could literally spend an entire day digging into data with you. So, but feel free.
We wanted to give it completely forward-facing to you so you can understand how much data goes into those decisions that the tiered teams are going to be looking at. So you know that there's a variety of different areas that go into that decision-making, and it's not just a one-point decision, a one-place decision. It has a lot going into it.
You also mentioned alternatives to out-of-school suspension. This is something the board has talked about, looking at our penalty area of discipline. Do you use that very much?
Out of school suspension?
It says alternatives to.
So we do use alternatives to suspension. There are times where there are behaviors, I know specifically at the high school, because that's where I'm at. I can't speak to the other 2 levels because I don't work there, but there have been times where we as an admin team have come together and said, listen, this is a suspendable offense. We could be putting this kid out. is that what's best for them, or can we be doing something else and give them some supports within the classroom, within the school structure, and maybe have them stay after school with us a couple days to make up what that would look like for them being out of the building, but keeping them in the building instead and setting it up a different way. So that's where, when you pull the status report, the monthly report, there are going to be times where you see alternatives to suspension, and you'll see those numbers.
Yeah, well, tell what the infraction is.
It depends on the kid, so,
The reason I ask is, when it is to the level where it's brought to the board for suspension, we know what they did. We know what the infraction was, whether it was fighting or drugs or
Yeah.
whatever it was. I'd be interested in what sort of things these are, to get a better idea of the behavior.
I would say more like verbal altercations, where it could, it's low tier, could be suspendable, but like it was like right at that line where we're like, is that necessary in the moment? When we're talking-
Is that with the teacher or another student?
Usually with students only, yeah. So, if there's a verbal altercation with a teacher and it's like extreme disturbance and stuff, that's not acceptable. And there's, of course, drugs, alcohol, intoxication, paraphernalia on campus that is not, there's no alternative.
We see less and less of that, so we become interested in what is happening in these kids' lives.
Mm-hmm,
Thank you.
yes.
Can I ask one more question?
One.
Just one. Dr. Hartman, can you go back to the data slide, the monthly status slide? Because I wanted to ask just about this. So I see the 3 red lines, and the goal is to average less than, so for elementary, it's 0.14, so that's less than a call a day is what your referral to the office per day. But obviously the data is kind of like all over the place. So it's kind of twofold questions. One, obviously in the high school, that one has more of a trend up, which also points to end of the year stuff and some other things. I'm sure you have a better idea of why that would look that way than I would being active at the high school.
Yes.
But then also for the elementary school piece of that, you have 4 different schools with 4 kind of like vastly different types of student groups, communities, everything that are involved in there. Like I know coming into it, I expect Brownstown's levels to be lower. I also expect Leola's to be pretty high for a school with a smaller population. And then the other ones to be kind of balanced out. So I guess the question for all 3 of you would be, even with the excitement of the rewards and all of that stuff, what does this data mean to you, knowing that you want to average at a line that is much less than some of the data you're seeing? Do you still see that as positive trend towards the goal? And how is that do you think the second half will look better than the first half? I'm asking for like a little bit of like a premonition of how you think this would look different in June than in December.
So this ultimately this is an alert system for us. And this alerts us to say, hey, we have an uptick. We need to dig deeper into what these referrals are. And then we start differentiating the referrals. We're gonna say, okay, what grade level is this in? What's the infraction? What's the location within the building? That's gonna drive us then to make these statements in order to move forward and do interventions within the building that target those behaviors. For example, we saw that uptick in December at the high school. Those are lates to class. We already did that analysis. Those are lates to class. We have a problem with some wandering. It's December between Thanksgiving and Christmas. We have a little walkers and talkers. So we are actually instilling an intervention at the high school starting tomorrow, where we're giving out CV bucks at the beginning of each block. If you're on time to class, everyone's getting a CV buck. Ding. And we're going to positively just flood them. And so the kiddos that are still running late to class aren't going to be getting that reward, and they're not stopping the discipline. We have a system in place for discipline. If you're late to class, this is done. If you're late again, this is done. That's going to continue, but then we're also flooding them with positivity. So we're hoping to see that go down because that's our biggest issue, and it upticked. So that's driving all of our tier 1 teams to dig into the data and see where we could fix where our building is in need of to then lower it.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. Could you respond, same kind of a thing for the middle school? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think some of the important things to remember too is now that we're able to get this data, it'll be interesting to see, yes, month to month, but I look at it almost kind of like an electric bill, utility bill too. To compare it next year and to look at it and say next year, where are we at this point next year to see, okay, no, we're a little bit higher, okay, why? And then we start to navigate and get into that, into those numbers. So I think that's why it ebbs and flows a little bit, but a lot of it, especially starting tier 2, and once we get some of those tier 2 interventions into place, that hopes to address, okay, why were things higher in November? Why were they higher in December? But there are certain times throughout the year where we definitely will see increases and we'll see decreases, depending on the time of the school year as well.
And yeah, at the elementary, I think there's 2 things to think about. One is our teachers are still learning the student code of conduct, how we differentiate from an office managed and a classroom managed, what documentation is needed as we build up, what things, again, for teachers, as we're professionally developing them and ourselves, what classroom interventions can we put in place to avoid that office referral. Again, the proactive measures that are necessary. In terms of the 4 schools, I hear what you're saying. I think again, when I'm able to collaborate with our other 3 assistant principals at the elementary level, we can have conversations. If a school does have an uptick, what are we seeing? Let's dig deeper together to support each other, because at the end of the day, we're CV, we're not just one school. And again, to Eric's point, I mean, this doesn't look like much to you guys, but to us, this is huge for that reflection piece as we go into next school year, over the summer, just the corrective opportunities that we really had not much to look at, especially for some of us that are new to the district, 2.5 years, I think it is for me, which for me, this is just really exciting to dig and be a part of it. So I don't know if I answered your question, but.
No, for sure. And I'd love to see that graph moving forward too, as you guys go along, the next time you present to, whether it's whenever it is. It's cool to see something like that and just how that trends to your goals.
Your link is live,
Okay,
so you
cool.
just click on that bad boy 3 months from now and you
we'll
can
that
see
same
it.
graph.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, actually, you'll see more.
And as a reference to it is an alert system to kind of tell us where we are and kind of give us an idea. Those red lines, as far as the numbers, are national average. So that's what SPEC helped with, to take a national average. So it's not just looking at Lancaster County or Pennsylvania. It's looking nationally like, hey, here's the recommended of where you should be per 100 students.
Sure. Which is always a good starting point to kind of figure
Yep.
it out. Very cool.
And it will not always be the same behaviors. That's the whole point of this, is that you may see an uptick again, but when they drill down into it, it has nothing to do with wandering this time. It has a completely different root cause. So that again is just one of the awesome things about how we're collecting this data and how the teams are able to use it now.
Well, it's even good to hear that, some of the upticks for wandering and talking. Because my brain always goes to, wow, there's a lot of it. Like, this is serious infractions, not just the, like you said, attendance, lateness, whatever it might be, or somebody's goofing off.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys.
This is the point during the meeting where we would accept comments if anyone in the public would like to address one of our agenda items. If not, does CBEA have any input? Even here. Other employee groups? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I will make only one observation, and that is the Red Rose corporate sponsorship for Market Street Sports is a renewal, and it's important to know, some of these companies that have been staying with us with these sponsorships.
Oh, and I determined that it's the same price.
Yeah.
This is one that hasn't.
If I remember correctly, usually any one type of sponsorship carries the same price long term. I don't know if that's been changed for some time. I don't know that we feel it's sustainable to grow some of those numbers without losing sponsorships. It's much easier to ask them to just renew.
I also realized on the real estate tax, the delinquent real estate tax is almost 700,000. Next highest 2020. But that is a lot of delinquent money.
That's not too unusual.
Yeah.
We have several areas in the township here that are delinquent with their taxes, and that's why we work with East Lamphere Township on their land bank trust, to help improve those and get them off the delinquent list, get money collected and refurbish properties.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I would take a motion to accept agenda items A through N.
Approval to accept agenda items A through N.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Martin? Aye. Mrs. Fisher?
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka? Aye. Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Ms. Trowbridge?
Aye.
Mrs. Groff?
Aye. All right, we'll now turn the agenda over to Dr. Hartman and Mrs. Hunsinger.
I guess we'll start with Mrs. Hunsinger. As the board's aware, we've been having ongoing dialogue and conversations about the potential for partnership with Penn Medicine on the on-site medical clinic, and we've been fielding a lot of questions. And so we just wanted to carve out some time to follow up on those conversations. Once again, and I know Mrs. Hunsinger has some information she learned this week
Yes.
to share as well.
Yes, I do. So I've continued to have some discussions with Dr. Hartman and I with Penn Medicine, getting some more information, but also had some conversations with East Lamphere Township last week, and then also as late as this afternoon. They had notified me that they had read an article in the paper about us having an on-site medical clinic, that it has the open format where we don't have the numbers to have an exclusive medical clinic. Instead, the open concept would be to allow other businesses that have joined their HealthWorks network to be able to come on site to our clinic. Because of that, it would require a zoning variance. And when talking to them in more detail last week about the zoning variance, I said, well, what all's involved? And because we are changing the principal use of that area of the building, the zoning variance would require us to prove to them why an on-site medical clinic must be here on our property, because we are zoned at public education, instead of having the on-site medical clinic elsewhere in the township. So we have the option to continue to pursue this. We would be required to hire a land use attorney, involve site engineers to get some of those plans developed, to move forward with requesting a variance, which their words were that it's a very high bar to clear.
To take me back a little bit, to find out how they feel about this, we have to hire whom?
A land use attorney.
Yeah,
And site engineers. Site engineers, maybe we wouldn't need them initially in some of the application for the variance, but we would eventually
yeah, I
need
can see with
them.
the plans, but we need to have a land use attorney.
Or someone who at least has a lot of legal experience in that area of applying for zoning variances.
Do our current attorneys offer this kind of service?
I did not have a chance to check with them today. I got some of the updated information as late as 5
So at
o'clock.
this point, we have two choices. We can say, oh my gosh, this looks like more trouble than it's worth, and walk away. Or we can say, well, let's find out where we stand.
asking the same thing.
And Peckway is thinking about building one on their land.
Possibly looking into it. They've got some renovation projects, so.
Maybe we could find out from Peckway how they,
So each town, as I'm learning all of this too,
Township's
each
different.
township is very different. And they had apparently proposed this to, in front of the zoning board, and they didn't require a variance.
I'm assuming rezoning would also mean different taxes.
Probably, yes.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Rezoning would mean different tax rates
Yeah, this,
for.
I have not contacted the assessment office yet, but if we were to be approved for a zoning variance in the old former district office, that portion, I don't know, could potentially become taxable.
It seems there's a lot of things we don't know.
Mhm.
I think there's conversations still to have with Penn Medicine on, if that's the case, what's their willingness to contribute
Be
to
my
that.
next question, where, can we negotiate something or not? Because if or not, then good to know. Yeah, I mean, they're salesmen, they're trying to sell us something,
Right,
so
and we've
we're not
already
getting
been,
the whole story.
and Adele and I have met with them as early, or as recently as this week, to go back and have some of the questions answered that the board has asked. And, I think there is a good faith effort on their part to want to work with us on different things, and they're open to some negotiate. As we discussed before, if we go back to them and say, well, we know what you're proposing is this, but are you willing to help out? There has been some back and forth there. So I think this is another one. If we find out there's going to be another, cost burden on the district, because this is new territory for them as well. The other school district they're working with is looking at an exempt or an exclusive model, where they're not having outside groups come in. So this is kind of new territory for them as well.
Is that different if it's exclusive?
If we were to have an exclusive model, yes, so my understanding is those zoning variances wouldn't be necessary.
Correct.
Okay.
Because it would be for convenience for our employees, and their family members.
Well, I think although we didn't make a definite decision to move forward, but I think that's where we were to make that decision. But I think we need to stop and find out just how big a problem this is. And I would think the first person to talk to would be Penn Medicine, and then find out where and how much a land use attorney costs.
Yeah, yes.
So those are the next steps.
I'm sorry, my buck stops at we have to hire an attorney now? Like, I'm done before we are hiring attorneys. So, I would like to hear what Penn Medicine would say, and taxing and land use and attorneys and all that stuff, what they would be willing to contribute. But, I don't wanna dish out any more money for, maybe. No. I want, as far as we can go with free, but then that stops, and then we need to make a decision.
So speak to them and see just what all this involves and how involved and cooperative they're willing to be, and we'll put you back on the agenda.
Okay.
And you said the township said that's a high bar to clear.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In other words, they need money because all the businesses are off, they need tax revenue, we're getting taxed.
Yeah, I can't see spending time on any more of our questions until we know if it's even feasible.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Adele.
Are there any questions or comments about either of the information agenda items? The finance and operations report, curriculum and instruction report. Do you have anything in federal funds?
No report this evening.
None at all, okay. Board reports, I will start, for the IU, there is one more program that they have coming up that I don't think got on my report, and that's February 1st. It's called, not IU, PSBA, excuse me. It's called Civil Discourse. It's interactive up at headquarters. If you enjoy that kind of, join in and practice what they're teaching, you can sign up for that. Other than that, I do not know why we don't have our bulletin yet, which I don't have mine. Does anyone have their bulletin for January? No. But I put the names of the new officers on this report, for those that are really interested. The IU report, you have at your seats an invitation to the March legislative breakfast. And of course, the other report is posted. Lancaster County Academy is having its graduation this Saturday. I don't know what the numbers are, quite frankly, at the academy. Some kids finish just in time to get to graduation, so I don't know. I'll let you know when it's all over. If you want to go, it's Saturday at the Mount Joy location.
And what time? What time?
I didn't say. I think it's 10, but I can check. Do you have the right directions this time, Mrs. Trowbridge? Yeah, we didn't know before that there were two crossroads churches in the county. Okay, for the CTC, you all have your ballot for the budget. That does have to be signed and handed in, please, to the secretary. Do we have anything from construction?
Just the report that shared, things are just looking good. When I looked
Okay.
over, it's just good information, talking about everything's on track, if not ahead. There's some percentages of completion, but there's a lot of things, they're reporting every area, but things are looking good. It's nice to see new equipment on the roof with some of the pictures she shared and some of the other things, so Leola is cranking along.
Okay. Any other reports for people that attended committee meetings? Is there anyone in the audience that is interested in addressing the board on any issue at all? We don't have a vice president's report this time. So now you had the award. Board comments and issues. The only thing I would want to add between that and dates is a reminder of our retreat. I have we've scheduled Dr. Hartman and I will be talking to Mr. Schmelzer about topics. If you still have another issue you want him to address, you've got 2 more days to do it. And I always like to make a public announcement that this year, there are 4 board seats that will be open for election. Other than that, I don't have anything else new. We do have a gateway in the future for the Freight Farm Tour, but that's not, March?
April.
April?
Can I ask a question? I wanted to
No.
ask Miss, okay,
No.
never mind.
Of course, always.
For Miss Schaefer, Sarah, I forgot to ask, for the PBS report, does CVVA, do they get to participate in some of that, or? Because that was the one thing I thought about and then forgotten. And that looks a little different for them, obviously, but they still have access to the same system, right? Okay, cool. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that we didn't
No.
forget to ask about them.
That's okay. Anything else? Any other issues or remarks before we close this meeting? If so, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn to executive.
I second.
Do we have an executive session issue?
We do, we have a
Oh,
student
okay.
matter to discuss.
Okay. Second? Oh, okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.